Hello everyone, I am Tacit and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Ghost Whisperer event in which the Spiritcaller Lila is added to the game. So this week is a little bit of a tamer week, which is very obvious by the fact that you can't even scroll over here. Has it ever even been this small before? Because normally this has like all the other things, you know, anything going on, all those other things here, and you can't even scroll because there's so few things here. But yeah, it is basically a transition week between campaigns, of course. We still haven't gotten a calendar for next month, so yeah, there's very few things at the moment as far as the current event week is concerned. Of course, we have some things coming up pretty big for next month, but as far as current week, yeah, it's pretty much just catch-up week for everything. Use all your vault keys that you got from last vault event week and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, yeah, let's start getting into all the things. Most notable thing, of course, is still the weekly event and the Friday event, which is going to be Bounty Hunter this week. As far as the weekly event, it is Invasion, which is basically just put 2 invasion troops at the front of your team. You'll be good to go. The current new one you need to use for double points, but also has double magic, which also means it effectively has 10 times damage since it's getting 5 times from being fully upgraded, and then a double magic on top of that for effectively 10 times total additional damage, which is very, very, very strong. As far as rewards, you end up getting the 65 gems, the orb, and all these standard stuff as you normally would. Worth mentioning a weapon for once, as they did put another explodey weapon here. It is weaker than the other one. There's another brown-green weapon. It's both weaker and stronger. It's a brown-green weapon that unfortunately only buffs war gears instead of Volpacia. But I guess it has a few use cases that could be good. Obviously, of course, if you wanted to for the event itself, but more so for the fact that there's some good war gears like Lord of Slaughter and such that do not exist specifically in Volpacia. But the main thing that this does is ends up doing Green Storm. Also has a little bit of Mana Steel, the first enemy, but it has Green Storm, whereas the other weapon doesn't really have anything, even though it has a better secondary typing for a week like this, at least for something like Underspire, where you can end up guaranteed doing it on everything on your team. But overall, yeah, it's not bad. It's basically just a Green Storm explodey weapon. It helps fill out some gaps for the Kingdom if you want to do it, but it's a little bit weird in just that it's the exact same color as the other already existing explodey weapon that, of course, is available in Soulforge as well. And there's also some pretty good things in Soulforge this week too, which we'll be getting to in a moment. But before we do, let's go over all of the teams, all which will be in the description below and pinned comment if you need any of them. So World Event, as we mentioned, you generally want to run double Invasion Troop, and we have exactly 2. We have Sir Wulfric and the new one. The new one, of course, having its double magic, while also having 3 explodes whenever it does its ability. And the other one mostly just here for its extra little bit of tank ability to help out to make sure you don't die to skulls as well. We're just using any mana accumulation weapon, in this case Wand of Stars, but you can use anything you wish. And Lord of Slaughter, we're doing it with Geomancer hero class, so he does get 50% mana start. Even though he's a war gear, he's also a construct, so he does get 50% mana start off of Geomancer. And we're just using this for a ton of skull spam off of his ability. While the Death Marks and other additional effects won't do anything, the massive amount of skull spams will, given that both your 2 front lines have 5 times skull damage to the opposing team once you reach the 4 tower section. And he also gets to start with Doomstorm, which you might be able to utilize some if you can get the team rolling within the first few turns to be able to actually use your Skull Storm. But that's pretty much the game plan there. As far as the lower rarity team, we're going all in on just the double and just feeding the mana. We're using Wand of Stars again, but of course you can just use the new explodey weapon, the new brown-yellow one that came in through the weekly event. If you want to go with that, ends up having Green Storm, which goes really well into Wolf Geist. And then we're just doing the Moonsinger, does purple to green to feed even more mana, which if we're using Wand of Stars in this situation also feeds into our weapon here to get more mana accumulation, and has Empower, so it gets to do that immediately at the start of battle. And even actually Hunter's Mark would only matter for the earlier battles, because of course the towers have immune, but prior to the final battle it would end up helping some, but it's mostly just for a huge amount of green mana accumulation, which you get both into your double damage, or technically 10 times damage Wolf, and then of course the rest into your mana accumulation option if you're not using the brown-yellow explodey weapon. As far as the faction is concerned, it is a green-red restriction, with weapon allowed to be any color. With that being said, we do have access to pretty standard Rowain quick kill as well as Tesla quick kill, so if you want to run either of those for the earlier end or in the case of Tesla the entire time, you do have access to them. In this case, this is the Rowain build. And for the higher rarity team, of course, we have access to Maelstrom Dagonov, so you can go any insta-kill team. With Leprechaun, you can end up feeding it mana accumulation very quickly, and pretty much just go from there, and just keep spamming out your Maelstrom Dagonov until you win, offset with either more mana accumulation or more damage, and you're good to go. As far as pure faction, there is a new thing which we never got to show on the copy-paste before, as I believe this is the first time it's rotated around since the Friday faction, where I end up getting a new troop. But we have the Court Witch. She gets to choose to either eliminate a bunch of attack from an enemy and curse them, or eliminate a random skill from them and death mark them. Generally, while both can be useful, you're going to be using the guarantee attack reduction on the first slot just to make sure that the skull pressure on the opposing team isn't too annoying. You can also still go for Foxfire King if you wish. But this does make it a little bit safer if you find that you're dying too much while trying to go for the level 500 Pure Faction or something similar, as you could reduce down the enemy's attack to basically nothing, bait out every single skull, and just go for green and red mana until you have enough to kill them with true damage off of your Foxfire King. And every time you take red, you also get the Fairy Fire. Having one less makes it less likely that you'll end up getting Fairy Fire, but honestly with 3 of them, you're still pretty good. You're getting 1.5 Fairy Fire per red that you take on average instead of 2, which is still a pretty substantial amount, and you get to just disable out the enemy's attack, or even all their stats if you want to. The main issue with doing randomly, you do have the benefit of Deathmark potentially killing them, but of course it is random, so it's not guaranteed that you'll get it on magic, which is of course the main reason why you would be doing it on random, is to try to get their magic down to 0, so they really do nothing as well, if you want to get like the Foxfire King to like 0 magic on the opposing team or something similar. But given that's on 1 and 4, how many times you would have to cast it is just way too inconsistent compared to just lowering the first enemy slot to 0 attack, which is generally going to be the way that you end up running this. Run it down till like 50 or less attack, and then just keep getting your mana and just go all in on Foxfire King. And that's pretty much the whole strategy now for that Pure Faction instead of 4 of the other Fox. As far as the Spiritwalker class, this is specifically war gear from Volpacia. With that being said, we could just use this. It has a bunch of Magic Link, +3 into your weapon, into any purple weapon you have. And then we're using its ability to give all other allies half their mana, which of course goes into an infinite loop. If you do this, you can do this technically with any weapon in the entire game, but since it gives half its mana, you can cast it once, cast it again. This now has full mana, then you cast that, and then this has full mana, then you cast that, then this has full mana, so on and so forth. Kind of like the Wall of Thorns, Dwarven Gate, all those kind of things. Except the main benefit of this is it does it for any mana cost weapon, so you could use literally any weapon here, like Ruby, something similar if you really want to, even if it's not necessarily utilizing the purple link, in order to just go and do that loop and get them to full mana. But doing it with purple, of course, allows you to get it way quicker, since you can just go and take purple and directly feed into the weapon, whereas otherwise you'd have to cast her multiple times in order to feed to your weapon. For the really late range, it might be worth doing that, but for the earlier range, if you're just doing for all gems, just whatever your best purple weapon or just a random black mana goal should be perfectly fine to go and kill it all out with. As far as Underspire, the mana accumulation for this place is not the greatest. Harper is about the best we have. However, there is the great benefit of Stellaryx exists in Volpacia. Why in this kingdom, I have no clue. But yeah, this is where Stellaryx resides, so you have mega ultra deluxe damage here. It's basically just about giving them mana accumulation, using the Explodey weapon and going from there. Of course, we got the new Explodey weapon too if you don't want to get the Fox Fang from Soulforge that we ended up getting from the current invasion event this week. Harper just offsetting a little bit of mana accumulation from its abilities, as it does do half, so cast 2 of these. You could even go double here if you want to go both double Harper here and feed into your Stellaryx in order to go and give it full mana guaranteed, as if you have 2 of these at full mana, that will guarantee get your Stellaryx to max. But given that he already gets some of his mana normally from his stars, unless you full miss, 1 Harper is generally going to be enough to bring it all the way to max. It also gets to start with that Darkstorm and purple mana to feed into it as well. And then Phoenix is mostly just here for the Bless Enchant, just a little bit of offset. But you can also replace this out for mana accumulation, as its ability itself you're pretty much never casting, using it pretty much exclusively for its final trait there, unless that little bit of damage happens to be within kill range of Stellaryx from all the chip damage that you're doing. As far as the Underspire low, you basically almost just build a pure faction team just with a bunch of support around it. While Foxfire King is a legend that can be targeted at any point. You just throw Chaos Shards at Court of Foxes. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, you can do it anytime this week and throw Chaos Shards at Court of Foxes, and you'll end up getting yourself a couple copies of this and you'll be good to go. Just as a bunch of true damage to all enemies. Not the quickest thing to be running for Underspire, but it's about the best you have if you don't end up having a Stellaryx. We're just using a Sacrificial Harper here to tank with to do a little bit of mana accumulation, but if it ends up dying, you have infinite resummon off of either of the 2 Exploded weapons from this kingdom, and you just keep resummoning into first slot. And keep in mind, if you are doing the Volpacia one, you can summon Stellaryx. Stellaryx is from Volpacia, and while the chance is relatively rare, as it's a completely random troop from Volpacia, and there's like, what, 20-something in there? Actually, how many are there these days? Actually, might as well get it, because I need to go there anyways for the thing. Let's see, where is it? Base rarity, Volpacia, show all. I don't know, how many troops are here right now? Oh yeah, I could summon the one that doesn't even exist yet, or not exist yet, but you know, hasn't rotated yet. But yeah, there's like 8, 16, 24. Oh wow, there's a lot more than I thought was here. Wait, was that a whole nother tab down? That's like 28 or 32. Wow. Wait, when does Kingdom get so many options? Wait, really? 8, 16, 24. Yeah, wow. It has 32? Since when? Wow, time has gone by. It is 32 troops these days. I did not realize it was that high. Well, you have a 1 in, no, I almost said 1 in 3. But you have a, why can't I math right now? Yeah, 1 in 32 chance, which is a, I'm trying to bring that down to a percent. Why is brain not functioning? It's like a 3% chance. Like a 3-point-something% chance that you would end up getting Stellar X, which is obviously very low, but hey, there's a chance. And of course, you're just using that as a meat shield, whatever gets summoned there. Or in the case of Stellar X, is your main damage source. But of course, this pure RNG, what you end up getting, you're mostly just doing it to tank and using the other two things as your damage options. Also, there's more teams there. Why am I going that way? So, other things that we have going on. Aside from the Underspire, we have Bounty Hunter. So, of course, the standard Bounty Hunter teams, we have a Bounty Hunter event and a new Bounty Hunter troop. This one right over here, not that one. This one. We're getting the Toxic Puffer. Ends up dealing some damage to an enemy, or 3 random enemies, and then poisons them. Overall, it's not that great, even in the context of Bounty Hunter. It's in the long list of Bounty Hunter troops where you're basically use it as the bounty captain for his double score during this weekend's bounty event, and then you will never touch him again. And of course, if you're not buying into the bounty event and just doing the free battles, you'll be able to get him in about a month's time from the standard drop tables like gold keys, glory keys, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to get them later, you'll easily be able to go and do so. But, yeah, you're basically just using him, going in your high points, just getting whatever rewards you want from the current Bounty Hunter event that'll be starting this Friday. And, of course, for the teams, we have just standard Ogress, Forest, Gremlin with its Green Storm into Green Link, feeding into a whatever your best damage source is. In this case, we're using Flower Dragon, but you can use Stellar X. You use whatever you have that just does a lot of damage. And Ogress is just here for mass mana accumulation, being really tanky. And, of course, the Bounty Captain goes a 4th slot. I just can't show it here since it doesn't exist until Friday. And similarly for the other team, if you're running a 4 times for maximum score, it is pretty much just a standard Tagraki Warrior build that has existed for so long. Ogress Warrior just for tankability, similar to the other team. Tagraki Warrior being used as your primary damage source, as is by far the highest damage source of any Bounty Hunter troop, having a 3-to-1 based on their armor with true damage, while, of course, being a bounty troop. And then the Corpse Mirror just to offset a little bit for true damage, while also having a bunch of mana accumulation and a bunch of life if you really had to tank. But the most useful thing, too, is that he has Water Link into himself, so you actually don't have to set your link ever to him. You can set your link all in on Ogress and Tagraki Warrior, and not need to really worry about him, because he already has his attached to him. So you can invest more into the main things that you need to get the team rolling, and the Corpse Mirror just already has it naturally. And then, of course, you just put the Bounty Captain in last slot, similar to the other team there. So, let's go to Soulforge. Soulforge is decently relevant this week, mostly in the troops category. So as far as troops, there are 2 that are worth mentioning. Ubistet, it has a double insta-kill basically, and whenever it gets a kill, it'll get another kill. It has a 6-to-1 attack boost ratio, which is not that bad. It's not the greatest, but it's normally enough to get within kill range. The most notable thing that you tend to do with this is to use the weapon Rope Dart from the Kingdom, which is auto extra turn, and armor tier and drags them first and entangles them. But the main thing is that it armor tiers them and gains you an extra turn while doing some damage. This brings it into chip range where you can do Rope Dart Ubistet, and this can be used for Pridelands event weeks as well, since it is both a Pridelands weapon and a Pridelands troop. But of course you could use it in other contexts too, with other mana accumulators that are better than what Pridelands has. But yeah, it's not that bad. There are quicker ways to win these days, obviously like Maelstrom Dagannoth and similar things. It is conditional on getting a kill, so if your Rope Dart cannot bring them into kill range of your Ubistet, then you got a problem. However, in most game modes, like PvP-like game modes and similar, Rope Dart into Ubistet is a double kill, and you just do it again, and then you win. You basically just have to cycle both of them twice, and you'll win the battle with a double kill, assuming no revives or anything like that. So overall, it's not bad. It's very niche for when you bring it out these days, but it's really good during Pridelands event weeks, and still has some niche cases here and there, especially under also Rashka and Divine Restriction. You can also end up running it for. And then, of course, the one that is just overall really good, Lord of Slaughter. One of the top 5 scroll spam troops in the entire game. Actually, probably even top 3. Ends up creating a bunch of brown gems and converts all browns into Doom Skulls. While also creating, the 6 and then converting them all over. And on top of that, even if that was all his ability did, it would already be kind of worth it. But he also gets to inflict a little bit of bleed, but most notably 1 to 2 death marks. So not only does his ability normally get a kill or 2 with whatever setup you have, or even just him being in first slot, which is not always done, but sometimes it is. But he also has 1 to 2 death marks, so on top of the 1 to 2 kills he might get from his ability, he might also get 1 to 2 kills from death mark. So, yeah, very solid. He has to summon Doomstorm at the start of battle, so you don't need to worry about that storm initially. And if you can get rolling within the first 3 turns, you basically have Doomstorm for the entirety of your Skull Chain. And most notably, he has the only troop in the current state of the game that has a 100% chance to ignore all armor whenever he takes a skull, effectively meaning that as long as he's not stunned, he's effectively true damage on skull 100% of the time, which is really strong. There used to be a lot of troops that used to have it, but now it is only him, and it is a very, very, very strong trait, especially combined with a little bit of skull reduction there. And there are other instances where you can get more damage, like Web Spinner with triple damage on almost everything in the game and stuff like that, but it is still very, very useful, especially in the context if it's being used with a true damage offset, like if you're using something else on your team that is also doing a lot of true damage in combination with them, because unlike other skull spammers that would attack the armor value directly, that would end up ruining things like, you know, a Tesla or something similar. This ends up going and doing true damage, so you can kind of synergize them together if you're doing a lot of blue or red mana accumulation with a Tesla or something similar. So yeah, it's not that bad. Definitely really good if you want to do a skull-oriented build. It's just skull-oriented builds just aren't as good in the current state of the game. If you're going something like Lord of Slaughter with Wild King, which is some of the strongest synergy you can end up getting for skull spam at the moment, it generally doesn't beat out just insta-kill spamming off of something like a Maelstrom Dagannoth, or of course just instantly killing the team with something like a Stellarix or Flower Dragon kind of setup. So still very strong, still used in the current state of the game, but a lot more niche than it used to be back in the day. Beyond that, as far as weapons are concerned, you're mostly just looking to pick up whatever you need for your for the events themselves. Like not either the two exploding weapons, but the older one is the main one that you would want to pick up, the Fox Fang, because the other one you can just get from the invasion event basically for free if you're helping contribute to your guild. Just buy the tier 3, and you'll end up getting it in combination with the troop. But if you're looking for the old one, yeah, this ends up boosting up all Volpacia. It's more useful for Underspire this week compared to something like the World event. But I mean, compared to something like the Invasion event. But yeah, it's still pretty useful, so you might still want to pick it up occasionally if you end up needing it for. But otherwise, the Volpine Fangs is just going to be the main thing that you end up going with, which you end up getting for free, so you don't need to end up crafting it here. And I don't believe it's used for any of the other 2 weapons, but let me just go double check, because I feel like I'm forgetting something. But no, I'm almost guaranteed neither of these 2 use a weapon. Nope, nope, and nope. So yeah, it's basically just that one exploding weapon, the Fox Fang thing, and that's basically it. Because the other one you get for free, and everything else here not really that relevant. A few utility weapons here and there if you really need it, but for the most part, the exploding weapons are the only weapons you really bring out in the context of the kingdom. As we mentioned earlier, the campaign is currently in its down week, so no campaign going on. But next week we'll have the start of the next campaign, as well as the calendar for all December, and you know, we'll kind of know the next setup for pretty much the rest of the year at that point then, unless they also post it for 2 months like they did the last time. Yeah, that's pretty much all we have. We already know only up to the end of this November here. Wait, that's not where it is. Right over here. So, yeah, unfortunately don't know any further quite yet. And, of course, no Mythic this Friday either, since it is not a new month yet. So next week we'll start up everything happening again. But this week has pretty much the full downtime of almost nothing going on. Let's see, nothing even in there. Campaigns, of course, down as we mentioned. Invasion we already went over. But don't forget to use the troop as it has double score. Let's see. Chess. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, but we didn't fully go over it. It is Volpacia drop table. Unfortunately, event keys are not that worth using, mostly because there's a lot of things not in this drop table. If you look at it initially, it might seem like there's a few things that are worth going for. However, almost everything that you would want to open event keys for that you might not have in this kingdom. Wait, what did I forget to do? Oh yeah, Volpacia, duh. That might help. Try to go to Volpacia search without Volpacia. But, where am I trying to go with this? But yeah, everything that you would kind of want to potentially get with event keys are probably not in drop table, if you had to guess. So for the most part, it is really bad value to end up throwing them down. So for example, everything that is not in the event key drop table includes the invasion troop that's needed for the current invasion event. It is only from throwing down gems at the current invasion event. Other things that are not in drop table include the 5 faction troop from Court of Foxes. Those are only from throwing Chaos Shards at Court of Foxes faction. The Wheel of Fortune is not in keys. It is in the Vault key drop table, or sorry, not in event keys. It is in the Vault key drop table, which of course if you opened or got any Vault keys last weekend, whatever reserve you end up getting, you can end up throwing them down to go get all of the tarot cards that are in drop table, with that being one of them. Beyond that, the 2 most noteworthy things that are not in drop table are Kamiko. This is not in drop table. It'll be available for 4,000 diamonds at some point in Soulforge. Who knows? Maybe this Friday when it rotates. But at some point, the Soulforge will rotate, and she'll be in the drop table for, or not in the drop table, but she'll be in the Soulforge for 4,000 diamonds. That is the only way to get her after the fact if you didn't end up spending 25 deep books on her earlier, or 2,500 gold marks. But yeah, she's nothing too relevant anyways. Just a little bit of extra enchant and everything. There's already ways that do enchant better. And there's already things that honestly almost do charm better too. So overall, just not really that needed other than for completionist sake or to upgrade the kingdom. So not really missing out on too much, but don't try opening event keys to try to get her, as she is not in drop table. And of course, the other thing that is pretty noteworthy not in drop table includes Stellarix. Stellarix is only from the cosmic eggs in Soulforge. You end up needing to get those 550 Dragonite eggs, get all 6 of them, craft the 2 weapons, or the 3 weapons, and then end up crafting yourself the Stellarix for 1,100 Dragonite. And yeah, he's pretty decent. He's, of course, the other one compared to Flower Dragon. He has, he's basically the best tank mythic in the game in a sense. I generally don't really refer to or think of him as a tank mythic, but he basically just is a viable tank mythic. He has very similar damage to that of Flower Dragon, but has 55% spell reduction and a 30% skull reduction, which obviously isn't the highest reduction mix, but for something that does this much mana accumulation, this much damage, it is the best ratio of damage reduction combined with damage output of any troop in the entire game, even more so than Flower Dragon, which is the main thing it has going for it. Also has the ability to scale, unlike Flower Dragon, which can give it more damage, even though it starts with initially less damage. But yeah, overall, not that bad. Still one of the best AoEs in the game, even though Flower Dragon is used over a lot of times due to its higher consistency. The biggest downside of Stellarix in the current state of the game is it does, it tries to do extra turn by creating 3 elemental stars and 3 umbral stars. The problem is when it full misses, similar to Wanda stars. It is really bad when it full misses. And if you somehow full miss a Wanda Stars and full miss a Stellarix in the same battle, it's going to be a very long battle, or you're even going to lose the battle in those situations, if it's like a PvP situation. So, yeah, it's the biggest inconsistency he has, which is the same inconsistency Wanda Stars has, which is something that Flower Dragon makes up for as it gains guarantee value based on where all the skulls are on the board. Obviously, there could be 0 skulls on the board, but it's very rare that there's absolutely 0 skulls on the board compared to Stellarix, where you do always get to do his ability regardless of the skull state of the board, but if he full misses, you're in trouble, which happens more than you would think. So, and when I say full miss, I don't just mean like no extra turn. I mean like literally nothing moves on the board. You create both the 3 gems and then nothing happens. Then the enemy takes like 3-4 extra turns and it just kind of goes crazy from there. Whereas Flower Dragon, you don't need to worry about that. It gets guaranteed amount of value and doesn't really backfire in that same sense that Stellarix can. But still a really great troop overall. But Flower Dragon, if you had to choose one or the other, like if you're going to go and craft Stellarix or craft Flower Dragon in the current state of the game, I would definitely go for Chrysanthemix off of the Flower Dragon. At least until the next one comes in that makes it irrelevant, probably. Because they just keep power creeping those like every year and a half or so. Which we probably are getting another set of them next year, by the way. I believe they're already in the files and everything. I don't think we know all the data on them yet, but yeah, sometime probably later next year or very early, like 2 years from now, we are probably getting another set of those, probably late next year. So yeah, we'll see exactly what the state of them are, if they're better, if there's some different mechanic other than just pure damage, or what they end up doing ultimately with those. But long story short, it is not an event queue drop table, though it is a really good troop and really great for the current Underspire event to go and clear that out very easily. And beyond that, the only other thing we haven't gone over then is the weekly troop, which is over here. We have the Spiritcaller Lila. Great time to stock up on Blue Purple Arcanes if you end up needing it. As far as your troop itself, it converts 9 gems of chosen mana color into Spirit Gems, which is not horrible. You could use this for a bunch of mana accumulation, but also to end up mana draining the entire enemy team by a lot. And then, or it could end up cursing and mana burning an enemy, which means you are only ever using its first ability. You're literally only ever using it for its big mana drain. It does feed into itself, so it has some interesting use cases, since it both uses blue while creating blue, while also mana draining the opposing team. It's honestly not that bad. It even has its own natural 25% mana start, a little bit of spell reduction. The biggest issue with it is if you once you do end up losing your turn and everything, if you don't have a good way, like you basically have to feed the blue into something that can clear the board like a Flower Dragon or you know, whatever you end up using. Because if there's a single mana drain gem left on the board, that could end up easily backfiring, as this itself does not have any immune to mana drain, and some of the things that you're using with it potentially might not have immune to mana drain. So if you end up doing this, getting a bunch of mana, but you're left like 3, 4, 5 mana drain gems on the board, the spirit gems, that could backfire pretty heavily. But as long as you can keep it on your turn, this has a lot of value. You basically zero out all enemy mana while also mana accumulating infinitely for blue on your team, so it has a lot of potential. Of course, it is a little bit inconsistent in that it only converts 9 and not all of them, but I can definitely see this having some use cases if you're looking for a mid-game mana drain related team. And yeah, honestly has a decent amount of potential in the future. There are better ways to mana accumulate and everything, but it's primarily being used as a mana drainer, essentially. It's just a mana drainer that has mana accumulation, which is actually relatively rare in the current state of the game. Something that can infinitely mana drain while mana accumulation. Reminds me of a lot of Valkyrie back in the day, except this also feeds back into itself, so yeah, has a decent amount of potential. I'm pretty sure I won't be using it too often, but it's definitely a trip to keep an eye on if you ever feel like you're against a team that really needs to be mana drained heavily, while also needing blue on your team. Also being used for the restriction, because there's just so many different restriction types in the game these days. And might as well check the PvP season. Yeah, we're still in the middle of it, so yeah, we still got a lot of time in it. Yeah, this is a mega dead week, isn't it? There is like nothing going on. Well, that tends to happen in the transition week between campaigns, and then next week we'll have like 5,000 things. That tends to be how these go sometimes. They only know 2 weeks generally. There's either nothing going on or everything. But anyways, guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I hope you all have a wonderful week, a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're celebrating in America, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.